Welcome to Mastering the Natural World, where we learn to make magic with our hands. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to drill. There's a link to a ton of free reference photos in the description box. That'll make it super easy for you to get started. The skills we're brewing up right now are observation and construction. Our true power will be in using simple lines and shapes to summon the complex structure that is the mouth. Construction is magnificently important because it's the foundations we're going to use to build our drawings and paintings. So let's get really good at it. I started with 2-minute drills today because I wanted to hone my ability to see the simplest shapes and recreate them as quickly as possible. That's one reason that knowing anatomy helps. When you arrive to the drawing party with an idea of the general shapes, it takes out some of the guesswork, freeing your mind to work its magic on the rest of the piece. Hello everybody, let me point out some bones to you. There's only two you need to know for the mouth, the maxilla up top and the mandible on the bottom. They connect over here near the ear at the temporomandibular joint. Can you say that? No worries if not, because they call it the TMJ. Knowing the shape of these two bones helps you understand the volume, shape, and perspective of the mouth, which really helps because you've got teeth to tackle and be on the lookout for more pop-up librarian lessons. The time limit of the drill requires us to put our desire to be good, right, or perfect aside in favor of prioritizing speed, progress, and experience, because there is no spell more powerful than experience. Drawing a basic rectangle around the mouth is one of my favorite ways to start the construction process. That's often the first general shape that I find, and I sketch it in the direction and perspective that I see the mouth sitting. If I imagine the same rectangle drawn around the mouth in my reference photo, I can use it to identify the edges of the lips. You can think of the top lip as a trapezoid and the bottom lip as a half oval. Sometimes if the mouth is open or doing something weird, you might start off with like a whole oval, but I usually don't, frankly. But after you get those more broad shapes on, you'll start to get an idea for the shape of the mouth, and you can refine your shapes. From there, you're going to start using reference points on the face to maintain the likeness of the lips that you're drawing. The outer corners of the mouth are a great example of this, and they're great reference points to use to help you find that line between the two lips. Pay attention to where the outer corners fall in relation to each other. The outer corners of the nostrils, certain areas in the eye, like the pupil, the outer corner of the iris, or it's not a tear duct, darling. It's your lacrimal caruncle. Your lacrimal caruncle. Little pink triangle. Or the jawbone of the chin. So all of these are reference points that you can use to find and maintain likeness. They give you the context and the clues that you need to put the puzzle together that is your subject. Now, none of these are hard rules, as in you don't have to do this first or that first. I often have to use a combination of these different tools and strategies. It just depends on the sketch. It depends on the mouth that I'm drawing. What's really cool here, though, is that as you practice observation, you're not just mastering this particular subject matter, but you're working on a skill that's going to impact every layer of your art. From color to refining to drawing from life. There's no doubt about it that observation helps us gain mastery. Oh, and by the way, if I absolutely loved one of these at the 2-minute mark, I absolutely gave myself time to do a little bit of shading, because the feminine urge for light on shadow in space. Am I right? Okay, so let's talk about this monster in the room, the teeth. I know. We could hide under our covers from these teeth for years. And I am going to teach you without it being a total nightmare. Finding the center line between the two front teeth is a great starting point. I move out from the center line, using it to help me find the gum lines for each tooth, and then following the gum lines down the sides of the teeth. The reason why is because the line between the gum line and the tooth is a darker, more shadowed line than the line between the two teeth, and therefore I can draw it on a little darker. I use the tooth that comes before the tooth that I'm drawing as the reference point for how long or short it should be, or where it should fall on the gum line, higher or lower than the previous tooth. And sometimes I do get stuck and I have to try to use different reference points to find the shapes of my teeth. Different reference points could be the outer corners of the mouth. You can also use the bottom teeth, the tongue, or different details on the lips, Cupid's bow. I highly recommend bringing your patience and endless self-belief when it comes to drawing teeth. There's a lot of them, so it's tedious, and everybody's are different, so it's a very involved process. If nothing else, remember that most people don't even want to try drawing teeth. So if you just try alone, you're getting ahead of the pack. Welcome to the Savant section. Congratulations on making it this far. Success in this arena is going to catapult us towards being the type of artists who create with ease and confidence. I mentioned in the last episode that this section would be particularly time-consuming and difficult, and that will be true in every episode because this is where the meat of mastery happens. Make sure you use the reference photos that I was talking about earlier. They're in the description box. They have people from all walks of life, all ages, different ethnic backgrounds, and different emotions. We're practicing everything here, and that level of hard work will give us such an edge over the mere mortals. While we're drawing the Sanderson sisters, I want to encourage everyone to start thinking about composition. I know you're likely just working in a sketchbook, and I'm not saying you have to make firm plans about composition, but I just want you to start thinking about it, start noticing it. If we start to play with composition in our sketchbooks and with our studies, then we show up to every step afterwards with practice in composition instead of just going in blind, hoping we figure it out. Hey, choice is yours. So a lot of times I'll just do my midtones first, but sometimes when I'm doing something really complex with a lot of pieces, I like to get my darker values done first. By setting those darker values, it helps me to add structure and ground the piece so that I don't keep getting lost. It's the same thing when there's not a lot of contrast between the different values. I don't want to spend a bunch of time going back and forth between my darkest value and like my close midtones to deeper values, because that's a waste of my time. So I set that darker value, and then I know everything after that has to be lighter. And a big takeaway that I want you to get from Mary and Winnie here is just how important the shading around the mouth is on the skin in informing the location of the lips. Don't underestimate how important and valuable the shading of your skin is when you're trying to show off a facial feature. Oh, and don't forget, in every episode, there is a free download of Mastery Missions in the description box. It's specific to the subject matter of each episode, and it's completely free. You don't even have to give me your email. It even has a little XP bar that you can color in as you complete your quests. And seriously, if you're drawing along, you have to tag me on Instagram when you upload your progress pictures with the hashtag Mastery with Carter, because I'm officially your hype girl and there's nothing you can do about it. We're skipping the last Sanderson sister amok for another tutorial on a more difficult set of teeth. And then we get to move on to color. I figure if we tackle the harder things together, we'll be way more confident once we're on our own. By the way, when you realize who this is, leave it for me in the comment section down below. First thing I want to point out is that I definitely sketched these teeth a little bit too dark. I try to keep it lighter than this because the shadows between the teeth are often a whisper of a shadow. Okay. Almost as quiet as the G in lasagna. But that brings me to an excellent point, not just about teeth, but for art, and that is that your eraser is an amazing tool. I used 3 different erasers for these teeth and a blending stump, so don't be shy about busting that bad boy out. Since we talked about construction and our first teeth tutorial, let's talk about shading them now. Make sure that you're being very careful about paying attention to what's really there instead of what your preconceived ideas are about what's there. So observing reality and drawing what you see instead of or drawing what you think you know a tooth looks like. There's always going to be some type of shadow between every single tooth and between the lips and the teeth. Definitely use your lighter pencils for the shadow between the teeth. And don't be afraid to really darken up the values on the teeth as you move back towards the molars in the back of the mouth, as well as on the underside of those teeth. It can get really dark in the mouth. It's a cave. And don't forget to check for a shadow between the teeth and the tongue. Anything going on there? That one really helps to add depth and dimension because we can really see all those different structures differentiated and coming to life. I don't know how else to help with teeth aside from saying, trust your observations, understand and believe in your ability to improve, and die on the hill of accuracy until it's easy to climb. I'm going to be here on the last day of every month. What? Oh, the last day of every month, I post this series. So definitely subscribe and make sure you come back. And just like that, we get to play with color. Here are the drawings that I did for the color section. My main opportunity for growth is skin tone. I'm not really happy with my skin tones in the last 2 episodes. And it's not that they're bad, it's just that they're not evolving and they definitely don't have the juice that I want them to have. Because I need them to have the juice. So my skill is stagnant, and skin is really important to me. It moves as we express, and it tells a story about age as well. So instead of continuing to practice in a way that wasn't helping me evolve, I did a skin tone study. Here's how that helped me and why I'm suggesting it to you. It's efficient. It saves us time by allowing us to practice a ton of different skin tones without having to complete an entire portrait. This rapidly improves our understanding of the subtleties in different skin tones. 2, by doing an isolated study, we can focus all of our attention on growing in our skin tone skill instead of having our attention for growth split like it would be when we were working on a complete piece. 3, because color theory is applicable to all mediums, no matter which one you use, you're growing a skill that will advance you in all areas of your art. 4, a reference chart of different skin tones is the gift of future efficiency. It's a guide to the colors that you like or don't, and a place where you can visualize colors interacting. It also helps you choose colors in your frequently used mediums quickly and easily in the future. All of the above helps remove the stress from the creation process, leaving you with nothing but confidence and room to bring your personality, intentionality, and point of view. Now that we've charmed our way through the technical, we're going to play a little game called the Sweet and Spooky Challenge. We're putting our skills to the test and forcing our creative hand with a collection of spooky or sweet concepts, a list of mediums, and some time constraints. I'll choose one at random from each category and be forced to work that concept into a mouth drawing in a given set of time with the required medium. Of course you should join, and of course you should tag me when you upload it on the gram. Show me up. Okay, I'm terrified, but let's go choose our challenge cards. First up, we've got our sweet and spookies. Spider, little spideys. Okay, for our time, 1.5 hours. And the last one, acrylic paint. My fave. Spider with the acrylic paint in 1.5 hours. It's giving clue. Let's do this.
Let's chat acrylic paint basics, and during our next spooky challenge, I'll spill the tea on shading mouths. If you're following the series, you might be wondering why I'm claiming that we can learn to master drawing and painting at the same time. If we learn value, color theory, and how to draw, which is built into this coven, we can use anything we want to add color to our work. You can explore any medium at that point and see which ones you like, or choose based on the medium that works best for the project. Acrylics dry fast, so strategically keeping them wet is one of my secret weapons in better blending and ease of process. One of my best tools for this is my Stay Wet palette. This thing is top of the cauldron. Too good. I'll link it in the description box. I also spray or straight up wet the surfaces of my paintings with a massive flat brush. All of this gives me more time to blend and helps me achieve realism. With a bit of practice, you'll learn how to manage the water and use it like a resource, like a mixing medium, in a way that helps you achieve your goals. I've also noticed somewhat of a debate in the online painting arena about whether to mix colors prior to starting or as you go. I'm on the pre-mixing side. It's hard not to eagerly jump in once your sketch is ready, but spending about 15 minutes planning and preparing your palette ahead of time relieves frustration during the process and again, helps you work quicker while that paint on the canvas is still wet. If you don't have a Stay Wet palette and aren't regularly spraying your palette with a spritz of water, your acrylics are going to dry on the palette constantly. In this case, it's probably best to mix as you go. A lot of the work you just saw me do with the first spiderweb coat was an effort to preserve my sketch. I'm really depending on it, and having to paint around it with deep values puts its presence at risk. That's why I painted the web at the beginning and again at the end. My final beginner tip is not to get too worried about anything, because it's paint, and you can just paint over it again and again.
Earlier, I mentioned composition for the first time in the series, and I want to bring it up again now because I have some error here and we can learn from my mistakes. I should have kept beware all on one line so that the word beware, that's white, had the black background, and the little spider was on the bottom of the web with the tongue background. This would have kept great contrast between my background and my focal point. But instead, I tried to make it fun and different and add interest. And when I did, I lost some of my story. My spider blends into the background. Simple solution. Spider goes on the bottom. Beware goes on top. All problems solved. My viewer then doesn't have as hard of a time taking the story in. They don't have to look as hard. It's just effortless. I really do think it's the little tiny subtle details like that that set us apart and differentiate us to mastery. So I wanted to point that out. Self-critique is important. We'll talk about it next time. I want us to be empowered to self-critique at the beginning so that we can grow. Because if we can't look at what we want to improve upon realistically and with respect, we're not going to evolve. We're not going to get very far. We're not going to be able to accurately assess ourselves and implement plans to grow. And art takes that just as much as any other skill. Don't care what anyone says at me. I am so proud of myself for painting this much in this amount of time. Like for doing this well in this amount of time. Hello? I mean, yes, could this be better? Sure, absolutely, 100%. There is a past version of myself that would be rolling over in her grave right now. Like, you did what? The fact that I could even draw it would blow her mind. But then the fact that she painted it that fast was like, what? So nerve-wracking. Oh, I just got the chills. Sneaky. That's fun. Marker and colored pencil. Easy. Cake in the bag. An hour. In the midst of this drawing, I really appreciated the self-challenge. Definitely not because I think that this is an amazing drawing or anything, because I think I could make some quick improvements if I had a little bit more time, but because it led me to more interest. It's really common for people to wonder how artists stay inspired. I think the secret is in the doing. I think it's in living life. If I hadn't been moved to act on this challenge, I never would have found out that I wanted to involve myself with the thought of floral patterned snakes. But actually, upon hearing that collection of words, floral patterned snakes, I can feel the paint blending under my paintbrush. My mind explodes with a buffet of slithering color, okay? Joy and delight are had.
Like everything else, you'll achieve mouth shading success by being a keen observer of light and shadow on each component of the mouth. There's a lot of them, so mastering this makes you a champ. The best shading, in my opinion, moves with the contours of the form. This helps to create that illusion of volume and depth that makes art look like 3D magic popping off the page. Understanding anatomy will set you apart here. The shading on the skin around the mouth is as important in telling the story of the mouth and its expression as the shading on the mouth itself. Make sure you include the shadow under the bottom lip, the highlights and shadows near the cupid's bow, and the shading surrounding both sides of the smile lines that stretch up to the sides of the nose. Those won't always be included as part of the mouth, but you get it. Some people's lips are separated by an obvious line where it transitions to skin, but some people's are more blurred. Each little crack, line, or crevice on the surface of the lips has its own shadow and highlight. When you're shading something detailed, like the surface of the lips realistically, it helps us stay organized. If I was aiming for hyperrealism, I'd use the grid method. When it's not that involved, I'll just section it off and give myself a path that sounds something like top lip left to right, and choose to replicate only the most important details. Organization in art helps with speed. Speed helps with progress and money. As you gain experience, don't be afraid to push or enhance the contrast in the values that you see in your reference photos. Once you start working with color more and more, play around with layering unexpected values. For example, using a deep navy for the deepest value on these lips to see its interaction with the purple marker versus using a black or a brown. You can do the same things with your highlights. The undertones of your shadows can be just as effective in adding to your piece as the ones in your focal points. How can you use your shadows to help your other colors sing? Do they want to sing, or are they trying to whisper?
All right, last one. Ooh, a sweet. We got confetti. 30 minutes. Gel pens. Gel pens. In retrospect, the fact that I did this to myself on the last challenge blows my mind. What I really, really want to know is why. Why would I do this to myself? Like, it's the pinnacle of the episode. It's everything that we've been working for here. And I've got myself out here with neon gel pens trying to impress somebody. Like, is my ego involved in this? Suddenly I'm feeling like it is. Do I have something to prove? Now, while I appreciate my confidence, I definitely edit this into the last position of the video so that the least amount of people would see it. Okay, let's start with the pros, because I absolutely love the confetti letters. Even though the perspective work is a little, it could be better. The fact that I could even make these look like little tiny shiny metal things, even though this gel pen challenge is very weird and underwhelming. I am glad that I did it. I mean, look at the depth I was able to achieve with just hatches and a couple of gel pens. I can't fault myself. I can't be mad. I mean, the way that my hand moved in this 30-minute period, the number of hatches, you should have seen a girl. That being said, I don't think I'll be writing home about it. And I don't think that this level of limitation is going to take you anywhere near mastery. Okay? I said it. But on that note, tone to tan paper for the win. And we have just completed our mastery challenge. As you know, you need to use the hashtag MasterWithCarter so that the community can see your work. We need to be giving each other our flowers. Simone Biles wants us to give each other flowers, so we obviously have to. Hashtag MasterWithCarter on the gram. I will be back with another episode on the last day of November. Go use your powers for good.